I was contacted on Discord by user Ugng, who informed me that the bit counter is globally constant, meaning that the animation for the bit sprite next to the counter pauses when off screen and immediately resumes its animation once activated again. This guy works on the Petscop recreation PR, also known as Petscop. Ugng spends a lot of time trying to make the game as accurate as possible. This is the animation he sent me to prove the concept. The question he asked me was, can we count backwards on episodes like Petscop 2's first piece counters to see if the game had been restarted? What he means is, seeing as the bit counter remains globally constant, we might be able to assume that the counter is reset after the console is turned off and on. So if the last frame of the previous bit counter doesn't match the next instance of the bit counter animation, it might be that the console was turned off and on between those 2 points of recording. First of all, I need to be able to accurately recreate the video he sent me and be able to apply that consistently at other points in the videos. So what are we working with here? First of all, Petscop runs at 30 frames per second and the bit counter has 5 different states. These states take 3 frames of the video to transition to the next frame. However, the YouTube videos being the way they are, and after I spent a couple of hours of researching, there are instances of frames dropping and the transitions happening after 2 frames, so keep that in mind. Secondly, when does the counter activate and deactivate? I tried different methods of measuring, such as activating the counter when Paul touches a bit, but sometimes the counter is already starting to appear by that time, or the bit acquired sound doesn't sync up. So I decided that I needed a more consistent way to measure the counter activation, then I would be able to determine if the measurement was accurate across multiple videos. It was incredibly tedious, but the system I eventually had was this. I would activate my stand-in for the counter 2 frames before we first see it appear, and deactivate it 2 frames after it disappears. Why do it like this? Well, it's the only consistent way of measuring counter activation and deactivation that I could come up with. But why wait 2 frames before and after it disappears? Well, I played around with how many frames I should wait, and 2 frames prior and after it activates and deactivates respectively yielded the most accurate results across the different videos. I'm assuming the Petscop game activates and renders the counter off screen at a certain location and then brings it into view. Then, after a certain amount of time of no bits being collected, it takes the counter out of view and deactivates it when it reaches its original location. That's my explanation for it anyway. Now, here's what I got.
Okay. So, yeah, that's it for the... Actually, that's everything. That's every single pet here that I've been able to catch. So, now I'm going to show you the part that's actually interesting.
Remember the drop frames I mentioned? There are times where the bit animations are out of sync by 1 frame. However, I chalk that up to the video dropping a frame rather than the bits being desynced, as it's too close to call. When going frame by frame to check if the bits stay in sync while making this video, there were times I saw the point at which the frames were being dropped. So know that when I sync these videos, I give them 1 frame of leeway.
Next month. And hopefully you're feeling a little more enthusiastic about that now. We can investigate this together. And maybe you'll find stuff that I can't find here. Now look at this now.
So from this, we've proven the concept, and shown that the bit counter stays the same over different episodes, cuts, extended sequences without bit collection, and rooms. But does it stay the same if the game is reloaded? A point in Petscop we know Paul is constantly reloading from is outside Marvin's room in Petscop 14, so let's test the concept out there.
If I go up, 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 Just keep going up. And so the windmill isn't there. I think I can, so I get blocked by that. I do get...
It doesn't stay in sync the second time Paul enters the room, but now we can test whether or not the animation is saved in the game's save file. Here's later in the video, after Paul is reloaded, but with the bit animation from the first time Paul entered Marvin's room. If it syncs up, then we know the game does save the bit animation from when it was last deactivated.
If I go up, just keep going up. Right, now we don't have to worry about that.
So the bit animation is saved with the game file. So sorry Ugng, using this method we can't see whether or not the game had been restarted, as the bit animation would not be affected by the console being turned off, as the save file seems to save the animation's last active frame. However, there is something we can test.
What? The hell? That was an experience. Huh.
In both instances of the Petscop 11 sync, the bit animations are the same, which means we can rule out Paul reloading the game as a reason for why the movement sync happens in the first place. However, whether by chance or design, the bit animation is saved and continues into Belle's episode, which brings into question the validity of measuring the bit animation at all. The bit animation might be a result of something more meta. The syncing, at least between episodes, might just be a coincidental outcome due to the order in which the Petscop creator makes the videos. Petscop 11 gets made, then the creator goes back to work making number 12, and the final frame of the bit animation is still saved in whatever engine he's using to make the game. Thus, Petscop 12 syncs up with Petscop 11.